Alright, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. These are things you should remember. These are devices that you would use normally for connecting networks together. The devices I'm going to talk about, number one is repeaters, number two is switches, and number three is routers. I've already talked to you about these things, so I will be brief in telling you exactly what the differences are. Here are the differences. What is meant by a repeater? Repeater operates as follows. That means sometimes when you have a switch, and if you want to connect a client to a switch, there is usually a length limit. Let's say it is 200 meters. This is because of the fact the electrical signals become weak and it cannot go any further. So if you want to extend the distance from your switch, assume that this switch is in your wiring closet far away. You want to extend this, then what you do is you put something called repeaters in between. And here we are, this is your client. Now instead of 200 meters, now you can have 2.5 miles. Alright, many a times nowadays you can use something called a fiber optic repeater. In the case of fiber optics, as I have told earlier, those who were in my communication course will understand, you have to have two connections, one going this way, one going this way. Why is that so? The reason is as follows. Because in fiber optics they involve light rays. Very good. One is for transmission, we call it TX. The other one is for receiving. The transmission on this side must be connected with the receiving on other side, and the receiving on this side must be connected with the transmission on other side. That's the reason. Now we are talking about, I already told you about repeaters. The repeaters incidentally operate at ISO OSI layer 1. There is a question on this. Now the next one is switch. We already talked about the switch. It is on layer 2. Now the other thing that you might want to know about the switch is as follows. What do you want to know about the switch? Once again, the repeaters are on layer 1 and switches are on layer 2. You also want to know the following about the switch. What is that? It switches data based on what address? MAC address. MAC address. That's why it is on layer 2. Now if you talk about routers, it is a layer. It routes data based on IP address. Alright. So one is the layer 1, layer 2. If you look at the ISO OSI layers, they are the bottom level right now. Let's look at the bottom layers here, especially the bottom 3 layers. This is layer 1 is what? Physical. This is data link. And the third one here is transportation. Physical, I think network. The one above that is transport. And here we have what? Repeaters. Here we have switches. Here we have routers. Sometimes you will hear the word layer 3 switches. That means the switch can also route. Then we call it the layer 3 switches. So much so for this. I want you to go through all these connections. I got a lot of information for you. Some of them are a little bit outdated. And here is where layer 1. Hub also falls under layer 1, but we don't use. There's something called a bridge. I want you to go through my slides on bridge because I won't be going through them, which is a layer 2. Most of the bridging work is now done by switches, and in particular you might want to take a look at local bridge and remote bridge. Here is a practical example. Again, this is an older one. We have gone through the switch. So I'm going to skip the next couple of slides. You can go through those slides yourself. Also, there are different technologies used for switching. Alright, there is a one is known as the cut through, and the other one is store and forward. I will not go through them in detail as well. You can read it up. These are the different switching technologies that were used. The details are again on my slide since I had to go through them faster. Store and forward takes longer, but it checks for errors more thoroughly. Cut through simply operates much faster. These are two things that you need to know. Store and forward will analyze the entire data. Cut through will only look at what is at the header, sender, receiver address, and so on. And here is a router. Router is a true networking device. It connects different types of networks. Again, I have given you this information before, so I'm going to go through these slides very fast as well. Here you see different types of networks. One is an 802.3 subnetwork, another subnetwork, and so on. When routers connect networks, they usually divide the networks into subnets. If you need more information on subnets, go through my CIS 484 notes. Here is a summary of hubs, switches, and routers. As I told you, here we have the routers operating at third layer, layer 3.